Hi again, Michelle back. So I'm going to show you, you can see right here, I have a pair of socks. These are, let's see if I can turn them over here. These are the monkey pattern socks from Knitty. It's patterned by a lady named Cookie A. Let's see if I can, got my arm in it there. It's very beautiful, very easy to remember, but you can see here I have where it has worn very thin and I'm about ready to lose everything. So one of our nice members, Sherry, brought in, and this is like a mending kit, like a weaving kit. So you can actually use this to, if you have like an actual whole hole, you can use this to weave with. So you can warp. You can use these hooks. You'll see they're hooks like this. So you can use to do a warp threads, and then you can use this to like weave over and under, and you'll see this can open up and you can grab your thread and like pull it through. Or you can use this to weave a pattern and use this as a shed to like open the shed or whatever. There's also included with it, this is a long sewing needle that you can use the same thing, because see it's the width of the loom. So you can use this to like weave over and under, or go over two, under two, you know, create some type of a pattern. It's got a big eye on it. Let me show you what I'm going to do today. Is I'm going to create, let me show you this too. See these, the hooks will come and they will be like flattened down so they don't catch on things. So you can lay them down and you can like manipulate them. Okay. And then I'm going to put this needle up because I'm going to use a regular darning needle. Most of the darning needles, and I also use these as like to sew up my seams on my knitted. I like the bent needle. It helps me scoop up the strands like in between stitches and things like that. I'm going to use one of the darning disc that comes with it, and I'm going to show you this. You slide this into the sock or your jeans or whatever you have that you're going to be working with. You're going to center the area that needs fixed, and this set comes with these nice rubber bands that you're going to put around the darning disc, and the darning disc has a groove cut in it. See, normally when I use my darning egg, I have to really hold this and try to keep it centered over the darning egg. But this will rubber band it to that, so I don't have to worry so much about that. And then let me show you, like if I wanted to, do you see how this has got this lip on it? If I wanted to use this and do a woven band instead of a, you know, darned knit band, I would put this on here into the groove, and I would take the rubber band and pull it out to also come around this part here. So let me see if I can do that. So you're going to fit that in there, and you're going to grab the band as well. See that? And so it's going to be just rubber banded to it. And then when you go to warp it, what you would do is you would go around the knit stitch, come up, come around one of these hooks, come down, go around the next knit stitch, come up, go around a hook. And that's how you would warp it. And then you would go over and under, and you would create like another little woven patch that then you would sew down these side seams, and then you would sew it down up here as well when you take it off, because you would have like loops up here from where it went around the hooks. Okay, but I'm not going to be using this because I'm going to basically duplicate stitch, because this isn't a complete hole. You can see all of the stitches are there. They haven't ran like pantyhose run or anything. Oops. I have some yarn that is a similar color. I do not have this particular yarn anymore. This yarn here is Schaefer Heather, I believe. I do not remember the colorway name. And what I'm going to be using instead is an opal colorway. You can kind of see here it's got long color repeats, but luckily I have a section here that is peach. I do not know if this is going to be enough yarn that I have that I cut, but that's okay. So you're going to start where you have some good stitches like out to the side. So you can see like here is like a very good stitch. So I'm going to go kind of through a couple stitches over. I'm going to go a couple stitches over. I'm going to come up, right, into that good stitch that I like. I'm going to leave a tail that's long enough to weave in, and I'm just going to follow the stitch path so you can see the yarn. You can see the pink yarn. That's why I started down here, so you can see the difference between the pink and the yellow. So here's the pink yarn, comes up, comes around the base of that yellow, okay, and then back down into the pink. And then I'm going to go up into the next door stitch, okay, and I'm just going to repeat this across, because you can see here like this yarn is very thin, so I'm going through and I'm doing all of these stitches that are like right next to the ones that are very thin, okay, because I want to reinforce not only the thin stitches but the ones that are surrounding it. Okay. So I will go across. Sorry, the light in here is not the best. You need good light for this. Okay. And I will tell you this, that we do have on our Libby app that you get access to through your library card, there is access to Spinoff magazine and Little Looms magazine. So you can always see us at the reference desk upstairs, because both of those issues had articles, I believe. Both of those magazines, some of the issues had instructions on using these little weaving looms for mending clothing and things. See, I think I was talking and I think I got off a row. That's okay. So then when you're done with that row, you're going to go back in down here, and I'm going to come up. Do you see there's a bar here? So I'm going to come up underneath that bar. Okay. And see, so it completes. Okay. It completes the stitch below, but then I come up and now I can go back across the next stitch. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, But now I'm going to go around this one. I'm going to go back across this way. So I'm going to go back in where that one came out, where this thread came out right here. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to come up in the next stitch. And you can see right down here where this stitch is that last stitch that I did in the row below. I'm going to come up in it, go around those bottom legs, okay, then go back down into this one, come back up inside that next stitch. I perhaps should have picked a higher contrast yarn so you guys would be able to see this easier. Okay. And this is one thing about darning, is you're going to have the thickness of the old yarn plus the thickness of the new yarn. See, so I'm going to come back. You can see the stitch right here that I just did when I darned it. I'm going to come up in the center of that. Okay, and then I go around the above it. Okay, and go back down in it. Okay, and I'm going to keep doing this. So I do kind of, it's basically I sew back, you know, to the left, and then I go from the left to the right. So I'm going to come back down in here. You can kind of see here, I don't want to go right up this column because you can kind of see here, see these strands right here are very thin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over, when I go down in here in this one, I'm actually going to come up over here. Because I probably should have started even further over. Okay, so I'm going to go around this one, and see, look, you can see, look at how you can practically see through all of those stitches, how fragile they are. So this pair of socks is, ooh, I'm going to say 10 years old, maybe more. So wool socks do last a long time, at least they do for me. So I'm just going to keep going back and forth. And when you're all done, you know, you'll add in more yarn as you need. You'll weave in the ends, just how like you weave in the ends like of your knitting. So I will pull this thread here to the inside of the sock and weave it up and down around the stitches. I will do the same thing. When I dropped that, my needle came out. All right, so I'm going to rethread the needle. Sometimes if your hole is big enough, you do want to use multiple strands of yarn, just because it would take forever to, you know, pull the yarn out. Working with a really long strand of yarn would be rather tedious. So I'm going to go back in here, come back up in that next stitch. Okay. I guess, you know what, we could probably have put this inside that rubber band, huh? And that would keep it down and out of the way. Bonus. So anyway, so Sherry, thank you for letting me borrow this. This is a really handy little device. I like it much better than my darning egg, because like I said, with my darning egg, I would have to try to keep this tight around the egg, because you know the work would slide back and forth around the egg, and of course the egg, instead of being a flat surface, I mean it is egg shaped. So as you can see here on this one, I'm going to go back into this stitch, then I'm going to come back up kind of in the middle of this stitch so I can work the stitch above it. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to do the stitch above it, and I'm going to work back across the row. Okay. I think you all get the idea of how this is going to go. So you can see I'm about halfway done. All right. The stitches are not going to be perfect. They're not, they will even out a bit, the tension of them, because you're hand sewing them, you're duplicate stitching them. If you've ever duplicate stitched before, that's just recreating, you know, the path that a knit stitch would take, up and around and then back down, up and around and back down. But of course you're going over and under a previous stitch, but you can see how very thin some of the strands are. So you can repair any of your knitwear like this before the hole forms. Once the hole forms, again, it is much easier to use the little loom piece and to actually warp it and to, like, you know, weave a little patch, a little decorative patch that would replace it. So